Well, we quite welcome the report by the president, on the tone and the content of discussion, that it was quite frank and, they focused on the issue. But it is also very concerning for us that after the NEC, took 2 days to discuss this matter, it came out with a decision to refer this matter, to another committee of the NEC, when it is the highest decision-making body, in between conference, and it is the one that is supposed to ensure, and enforce the implementation of conference resolution. Yes, the decision indeed, is disappointing.
Yeah. I mean, the president, in one of these sound bites we've been playing this morning, saying, that the party's stance on corruption is very, very clear. I would argue as clear as mud, perhaps, Ike, this morning, because we went into this final NEC meeting expecting the president to confirm that the party, on this decision that those who face corruption charges must step aside, would come out and reiterate that decision, rather than referring Magashule to the Integrity Commission. Perhaps speak to me as well about the Integrity Commission as well, and how much faith your organization has in it.
Well, we would like at this stage to fault the Integrity Commission. Remember that it's a committee that is operating, from elsewhere in the Thule House. We, as the general members of the ANC, hardly know, the decisions it takes, because all those decisions, we believe, are reported back to the NEC, which they states, hardly says anything about the reports of the Integrity Commission. So yeah, it's a bit discouraging, because it is things like these, that make people, outside to think that the ANC is not serious about stamping out corruption. And indeed, would like to encourage, members of the NEC to set up and ensure that they do what they've been elected by the general membership to do. That is to implement the decisions of conference and ensure that the ANC is administered well and it carries out, the objectives, works towards the objectives of the ANC.
Yeah. I mean, do you get the sense that the NEC itself is actually indecisive, perhaps even fearful of taking action against someone as senior as Ike Moroe, and then sort of farming out that responsibility then to the Integrity Commission?
Oh yes, one is compelled to think so, because after 2 days of fierce discussions, in-depth discussion, as the president reported, one would have expected the NEC to have come out firmly and said that this is the decision that we took, at the 54th National Conference. This is was contained in the letter, the issue of the fight against corruption, in the letter that the president wrote to the general membership. And it is also a decision that the NEC endorsed at its 30th August meeting. That is, to draw line on the sand. But, by dilly-dallying, this indecisiveness gives another impression that perhaps we put too much on unity without having to look into the content of the unity that we want. We cannot, sacrifice anything, even, the ethical positions of the ANC for unity. Unity is important, but unity can only, be properly attained while based on, proper, ethical considerations.
Ike, it's interesting that you talk about unity, because that's something, it does appear, the ANC president has backtracked on, just in terms of, how he's updated the nation on the inner workings of the NEC. On Monday, we saw Cyril Ramaphosa coming out and talking very worriedly about the issue of unity within the ANC, saying that it comes across that it is an organization that is at war with itself. Yesterday, when we heard from the president singing a completely different tune, really once again trying to say that the ANC is a party that is at its heart united. So, I mean, we're all confused. Which is it?
Well, to be frank, I don't think at the moment the ANC is as united as we would wish it to be, ideally. And we shouldn't also forget that the ANC has been, faced by situations which, at times forced it to take positions. In the 1970s, there's a group of 8 which completely demonstrated that it was not prepared to unite with other members of the ANC. And it was chucked out. Why is it a problem now, to really be bent on unity with people who do not unite with the ANC? Because if there are members of the ANC who do not want to observe the constitution and resolutions of the ANC, and uphold them, then they're not interested in unity, they're interested in something else. One could then, safely say that, yes, there are problems of unity in the ANC, but it cannot be unity at all costs, even at the cost of, the credibility of the ANC.
And that's what's coming across now, isn't it? That the ANC is putting this issue of unity above its own reputation, and many would argue to the detriment of the organization itself.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate. That would be very unfortunate, because should that, be perpetuated, we could expect to see the ANC, being defeated during elections, because the ANC promised the people of South Africa that it was going to deal with corruption in order to be able to, advance the struggle against poverty, against joblessness, against inequality. If the ANC does not deliver on its promises, of dealing with corruption, the people will abandon the ANC. And this is what the ANC should understand, that it cannot be unity at all costs.
Do you think that this is something that is high up on the agenda of the ANC at gatherings like, the final NEC meeting of the year? This issue of unity, what it might cost the party, and whether, the discussion that many analysts are having now, come 2024, the next general election, whether what's happening within the governing party, how it's seen to be dealing with many things, including corruption, may well cost it that above 50% share of the votes in 2024.
You see, us who have contributed, sacrificed, our youth to the ANC, we are very worried, we are very concerned, with the attraction of the ANC at this point in time. We are worried that certain things that ought to be done are not being done properly, and they might indeed cost the ANC elections. We cannot always be talking about unity. Is very important. The ANC, the founding bedrock of the ANC was unity. Unity is important to us, but it cannot be unity at the expense of, the ethical positions of the ANC. We should get our objectives very clear. We promised our people that we're going to fight against corruption which is affecting our people. The issue of asbestos, people must take it very serious. Asbestos has been proved to be fatal, and there are houses which have been had asbestos roofs, for more than 30, 40, almost 50 years in this province. And it is the people who are suffering, and it is those people who are supposed to be voting for the ANC. What do we say to them when we can hardly, when we find it very difficult to take positions, against those people who have cheated them, of their well-being?
Ike Moroe, thanks very much for your time this morning on the AM Report. He is head of the Free State Anti-Corruption Lobby, and that's, of course, as we continue to unpack what ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa had to say when he gave that report back on the last NEC meeting of the year. One of the big issues, of course, is that Ike Magashule, the Secretary General of the ANC, will now subject himself to the Integrity Commission come this weekend.